As someone who has spent years looking for their people, their circle of close friends, one of the most important lessons that military life has given me is a better understanding of friendships. I used to believe that all friendships were created equally. At most, maybe there were two groups. You have your close friends, your best friends, and then you have everyone else. And I really thought that the everyone else group was all encompassing and that they were all equal and they were all just the same kind of friend to you. But let me tell you, boy was I wrong. Now that I know better, I would say that there are actually 5 different levels to friendships. There might be some people that argue that there's only 3 or 4, but you'll see why I say that there's 5. Starting at the bottom, we have level 1, and those are acquaintances. These are the people that you've met once or twice, you've been officially introduced by somebody you mutually know, and maybe you'll say hi to them in passing if you see them somewhere, or maybe you stop and make small talk, but the relationship doesn't have any more depth to it other than that. These are the people where you go to an event, you don't know anybody, but then you see them in the corner, you're like, oh, I know that person, I've met that person, so you go hang out with them for the night, but it probably doesn't progress to outside that event. These are the people where you just probably know random facts about them, like maybe who their spouse is, how many kids they have, where they're from, maybe what pets they have. You don't really know anything of true substance about them. And let's be honest, these are the people where whatever little tidbit fact that you know about them, that's their identifier. Jane with 5 kids, Charlie from Minnesota, Blaine with the boat. They're the people that like you know of, but that's the extent of your relationship. The first mistake in my old way of thinking of how everyone falls into this friend category is that's the mistake. The reality is everybody actually falls into the acquaintance category until you've nurtured a relationship and it actually progresses to something, and then they can move up in levels. When I first moved to Texas, my husband deployed shortly after we moved and settled in, I started forcing myself to attend these spouse meetups, these little groups of spouses that got together so that they could make some friends at this new base. We were all essentially new. There were a handful of people who have been at the base that wanted new friends, so they took charge of setting up these get-togethers. And that's where I would make the mistake. I would leave those get-togethers and I would think, oh, I just made a whole bunch of new friends. I just talked to 5-6 new people and I just made 5-6 new friends. That was my mistake. Later on, once I started realizing more about the different levels of friendships, I realized those 5 or 6 women that I just met at this get-together, they're just 5 or 6 new acquaintances of mine. They're just people where if I saw in passing at Target or on base, I might say, hi, how are you? And that's it, because I recognize their face. The next level of friendship is friends for a reason. And just as the name suggests, your friendship exists due to a mutual reason that needs to be fulfilled by one another, such as you're both feeling lonely, you want companionship, you want someone to do a hobby with or an activity with. It fills some sort of need. I do admit that this level of friendship was a little hard for me to understand. I used to mix it up with the next level, and I didn't understand how they were different. It's still kind of hard for me to explain, but hopefully this example will kind of show what I mean. The most common example that I see for this kind of friendship is partying. And I think this example gets used because it helps illustrate it in a clear manner to show why that friendship exists. So let's say you're a partier. You find some friends who are also into partying and you guys party together. That's your thing. You hit them up, they hit you up when there's a party, you go out together, have a good time. But let's say you decide partying's not for you anymore. You're a little older now, you don't want to go out, you don't want to stay out as late, and that's just not your scene anymore, which is totally fine. But then you start noticing the only time that friend ever hits you up, it's to go to a party. And the more you tell them, no, I'm not into that, I'd rather stay in, I'd rather do something else, you start hearing from them less and less. You start realizing that the only reason why you ever hung out with them and why they ever reached out to you was because you both partied. But as soon as one of you stops wanting to party as much, that friendship no longer serves its purpose of having someone to go out with, having someone to go party with. And then eventually the friendship fizzles out. Now, I do think friendship for a reason can also have a positive spin to it. Maybe you have a particular hobby that none of your other friends really cares about. Your spouse doesn't really care about it. So you want someone to do said hobby with. So you go out and find people who are also into that hobby or interest of yours, and you just hang out with them for that hobby. You may not have anything else in common other than just that hobby. Like if it wasn't for that hobby, it's possible you wouldn't be friends with them otherwise. And that's totally fine. Maybe you're part of a sports team, or you're in some sort of club, or even just your coworkers. You're friends with them because you have a joint interest, or you're in a joint setting, work, the club, the sport, and you socialize there, but it doesn't leave that setting. I would argue a lot of my friends in college were actually friends for a reason. We were friends because we were in the same class. We wanted to study together. We wanted to do our homework together, do projects together, help each other out. And that was the reason. There were a few people here and there where we would hang out and it wasn't related to the class at all. But it also didn't really last past that semester. The thing that brought us together was the class. And the reason why we were hanging out was to try and pass the class. So we were helping each other study. Basically, after the semester was over, after the class ended, at most maybe we would keep in touch for a couple more weeks, but then they would kind of fall back into the acquaintance category. We would say hi to each other in passing, small talk in passing, but that was basically it. Sometimes if they had a similar major as mine, if they were also in STEM, maybe we would take a lot of classes together. So that would kind of prolong the friendship in a sense, because we would take multiple classes together semester after semester. But basically after the classes ended, so did the friendship. There wasn't any hard feelings. It wasn't anything negative. It's just the friendship served its purpose. The friendship served the reason for why it existed in the first place. Level 3 is a friendship for a season. And I mentioned before how friendship for a reason and friendship for a season were a bit hard for me to differentiate based on how you think about it. I do feel like in some ways they could be interchangeable, but they're really not supposed to be. To me, the main difference is that friendship for a season is a bit more broad, more experience-based. It's more of a phase of your life kind of friendship. I hope this example makes sense, but this is an example where I think it'll show why it can be confusing. So I had friends in college that were clearly friends for a reason. The friends that I had for study groups and such, for classes. But I would also say that a lot of my friends in college were also friends for a season. Whether it was the people I was friends with for multiple years because we all worked for university housing, I was a resident advisor, or if it was just the fact that we were friends because we were both in college, going to the same college, living in the same city. I would say a good number of my friends for a reason, the ones that took more classes with me because our majors overlapped, I would say they kind of hovered between friends for a reason and friends for a season. Because a lot of them I was friends with my entire time in college, and the season would be the years that I was in college. I really hope this makes sense. Let me try and give you some other examples that hopefully make more sense than what I was trying to say about college. There's the season of motherhood. There's the season of being a first-time mom. There is the season of when I lived the military life. There's the season of when you work a particular occupation or you have a particular career path. Maybe you decided to take a gap year and you moved to a brand new city for a year before you moved back home. That year is the season. The friends that you may have met during that year, if you don't stay in touch with them after you leave, they are the friends for a season. Does that make sense? And something that I find very interesting about friends for a season is the fact that you may not even realize that it's just a season of your life until after it's over, until after the fact. Something like military life, I think more or less it's a season regardless of how long it is. You might go into it thinking your spouse is going to do a full 20 years, so you're expecting to do at least 20 years of military life, and then it gets cut short. Maybe your spouse only plans to do one tour and you only expect it to be 3 or 4 years long, but then they stay in and it becomes longer. But more or less, military life will come to an end at some point because they will no longer be serving in one way or another. But in other aspects, you may not realize that it's just a season of your life. You might be in a career path, an occupation where you are like, yes, I love this. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. This job, this company that I work for is amazing. I don't want to ever leave. And that might be your line of thinking. Until 10 years later, you're like, I need a change of scenery. I want to go for a different career. I want to move locations and get a different job. And until that moment, you won't realize that the past 10 years was its own season. You didn't think it was going to be just a phase of your life. From a friendship standpoint, I do feel like friends for a season is a bit more of a reflective category. You're reflecting on your relationships after the fact. Because again, you may not realize that it's just a season of your life, just a phase of your life until the phase is over. So for me, I made multiple friends while living the military life. And there were quite a few where I thought, oh, these are my hardcore friends. We're going to stay friends even if one of us moves away, even if one of our husbands gets out of the military. We're still going to be such close friends. We're still going to be such good friends. Come to find out, we were just friends for a season. We were really just friends while both of us were living the military life and living in the same town. And that's okay, because now I know better, and now I can reflect on how our friendship kind of fizzled out because we were no longer in the same town, because we no longer had the same life experiences, which was the military. And they've basically kind of fallen down back into the acquaintance category, because I would still talk to them and catch up with them if I were to see them, run into them in passing, but we're no longer as close as we used to be. So that's what I mean by it's kind of a reflective category. You're kind of reflecting on why does it last or why doesn't it last? And again, it doesn't have to fizzle out due to some malicious thing that happened. It's just a phase of life. It's just due to the phase of life you're in and the phase of life that they're in and the joint experiences. And once those experiences are no longer there, you no longer have the things in common to bond over. Level 4, I feel like is such a give me, self-explanatory one. It's friends for a lifetime. These are the people who you will call your ride or die. The ones who stick through everything that you go through. The friendships that survive and stick around for every part of your life after you guys meet, of course. These are the friends that are genuinely interested in you, and hopefully you're interested in them in the same manner. The ones that truly care for you, the ones that push you to be a better person, the ones that challenge you to grow, the ones who embrace you for who you are and for every version of you as you continue to grow. I don't think there's really much more to say for that level. It's pretty self-explanatory. If anything, this is the one level everybody understands, because this is the one level that everyone seeks. Everyone is seeking that ride or die. Everyone is seeking that one true best friend or best friend group. A lot of people are seeking that kind of relationship. That was the relationship I spent years seeking. There's nothing really else to say about it, because I'm sure this is the one friendship level that everybody understands. So level 5. Level 5 is anybody who is not in levels 1 through 4. These are the people that you don't want in your life at all. These are the people that you've met and you're just not really fond of them. You don't click, you don't vibe well. Maybe there's a deeper reason why you don't want them to be part of your life. That's my idea of level 5 of friendship, people who you don't want to be friends with. It could be argued that maybe level 5 isn't even a level of friendship, because there is no friendship, there is no desire for a relationship or friendship there. But why not? Because the thing is, you're not going to vibe with everyone that you meet. You're not going to want every single person you meet to be an acquaintance. To me, an acquaintance is someone that you have been introduced to and you don't have a deep relationship with, but you don't mind their company. You're still okay with hanging out with them if need be and spending time with them. Versus people in level 5, people who you don't even want to spend time with. Are they really an acquaintance if you don't want to spend time with them? If you don't want to be in a room with them? If you don't want to be anywhere near them? So you may or may not have recognized that levels 2 through 4 are from a poem by Brian Chalker. I would say this poem is actually quite popular within the military community, because as people living the military life start learning to recognize that friendships actually have different levels, that's when they start learning about this poem. The opening line of the poem is literally, people come into your life for a reason, a season, and a lifetime. I added on the other categories, the other levels, 1 and 5, because the thing is, you're not going to like everyone that you meet in life. And there's plenty of people that you'll meet who aren't bad people, but you just won't have a relationship with them. So that's why I added acquaintances and people you don't like. I really wish I knew about this poem sooner in life because I feel like it could have helped manage my expectations on friendships. But at the same time, I do have to wonder, would it have done me any good had I known about it sooner in life? Because maybe I just wouldn't have even been mature enough to understand what the poem was trying to say. Another reason why I like this quote poem so much is because it helps me visualize my expectations on friendships a lot more clearly. And what I mean by that is picture the food pyramid, or just picture a normal pyramid and divide it into fourths. Just like the food pyramid, the bottom's going to be the biggest area, and then you have a slightly smaller area, slightly smaller, till you get to the very top, which is super teeny tiny. If you visualize it that way, the bottom of the pyramid are your acquaintances. It is where most people are going to be. It is going to be the largest category because everyone you meet that you don't mind associating with are going to be in that category. Next is friends for a reason, then friends for a season, and then friends for a lifetime. And as you go up the pyramid, the spaces get smaller, which helps give a visual representation of how many people are supposed to be in that category. I think at this point that's pretty self-explanatory. Once you get to the top, friends for a lifetime, it's going to be the smallest category because you're not going to come across a lot of people who are meant to be a part of your life for your entire lifetime. Those people are rare. When it comes to people, you really need to think about quality, not quantity. And I feel like that pyramid visualization is a great representation and a great reminder of that. I really hope I was able to explain all that in a clear manner. I hope you understood what I was trying to say. Because if you've never heard of that quote, that poem, or even realize that there are different levels of friendships, I think this is a great lesson and it can be very eye-opening because looking back, I do really wish I had known about this sooner. I think it really would have helped me manage my expectations better towards other people's, towards my friends, towards my friendships. And I do think people are a lot like how I used to be, where I was just craving that friend for a lifetime person. I was just constantly searching that friend for a lifetime person, desperately trying to throw anybody and everybody that I met into that friend for a lifetime category without realizing that they're actually an acquaintance or for a reason or a season. I just wanted to fill that lifetime category so bad without recognizing that they are actually one of these other categories and thus managing my expectation of them better. I'm not saying it's going to make it any easier having that desire for that ride or die friend, but I'm saying maybe it'll help you understand and appreciate your friendships better for what they are. If you're interested in any other life lessons that I've learned while living through the military life, I have a video on that. If you like the videos that are kind of like life lesson chats, life lessons that you don't have to learn the hard way, someone can just tell you what those lessons are, I have a whole playlist on that too. So go check it out.